As we left off yesterday, speaking part 3, but also merging speaking part 3 together with writing part 2. The reason we're going to look at these two tasks together is because they share one very common idea, and that is the whole thing of forming an argument. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. So let's dive straight in. I understand that it's quite late for many of you. It's only 4:20 here in the UK. So I'm guessing that some of you might be getting tired, and that might be why the number of attendees has also slightly dropped as the momentum has worn down, as people are starting to feel the effects of Ramadan or Ramazan. So let's have a look together at what it means to form an argument. And this is what you'll be using in IELTS Part 3, and this is also what you'll be using in IELTS, in writing, in your body. So let's have a look firstly at this picture here. Can anybody tell me what is it that you see here in this picture? Okay, so some people have picked it up straight away. A burger, and it is a burger, and some people are saying that it's a smashed burger, and that probably isn't too far off the truth. Moving along to our next picture here. This is slightly better in terms of a burger. Now, my question still is, would you eat a burger like this? So they're both burgers, but my question is, are you interested in a burger like this? Or if you go to one of the fast food outlets in Kazakhstan, is this burger gonna interest you? And I think the response that we've got here is generally a no. Nobody wants to eat a burger like this. Let me show you one more burger. And what about this one? Norai is saying it's a Big Mac, and I think it is a Big Mac, but there's a little bit of a problem with this. Alton, if you're with us, and any of the other panelists, some people are causing a bit of a riffraff there in the chat, which is kind of distracting. If it is possible, could you possibly delete them from the chat? That would be much appreciated. So yeah, this third burger, would anybody be interested in eating it? Especially asking this question to the girls. So Aidana is saying no. I think some people are liking the fact that there's a couple of patties there, but generally the idea is that it's too large. It's going to be very difficult to eat this, especially in a public place. You're not really going to know what to do with this burger. And finally, I have one more burger, and it's this one here. And any burger fans out there, anybody enjoy eating burgers? Nara is saying that's okay. She'd have a go. It looks like a nice, simple gourmet burger or an ordinary beef burger. And I think people are saying, yep, we'll eat this one. Well, basically, a burger is the same as a paragraph or the same as an argument. So our topic today is arguments and forming an argument. And sometimes, actually often when in IELTS speaking part 3, as we saw yesterday, people form arguments which aren't very clear, and we could liken them to some of the burgers that we have in front of us. So some arguments are really short, very underdeveloped, and they really don't have a lot of coherence to them. They're not really making a lot of sense. And then we've got maybe a slightly better argument, like the burger in the middle there. You can kind of see some ideas in that argument, but it's still not really making a lot of sense. Very difficult to understand what the person is trying to get across. And then we get these really long-winded arguments that just keep repeating themselves, and there's actually not anything wrong with these arguments apart from the fact that they're just too long. And obviously what we want to be doing is presenting an argument that looks like the burger in the top right-hand corner. And how do we do that? How do we present this type of argument? And what I'm going to give you here is a very basic structure. So if you have a look at the top of the burger, what we've got a piece of bread. And so basically that would be us paraphrasing the argument. So paraphrasing the question and giving our argument. Now, if you have a look at this burger, there's only one piece of meat. We don't want to be giving too many arguments. We giving too many for basically every burger. We want, or for every argument, we want to, for every paragraph we have, we want to give one argument. But what we want to then do is we want to add a lot of ingredients to this. So we want to make sure that we give a little bit of that onion, a bit of that tomato, a bit of that cheese. And we do that by explaining the argument. Then we give a couple of examples. And finally, if you so wish, and some people find this difficult, some people find it not that important, we give a closing kind of thought or a little bit of a conclusion. So let's look at how that actually works in practice. So what I've got here is two cars. Looking at these two cars, what's the main difference between these two types of cars? We got people saying speed, color, any other ideas? Okay, so the first one is a Jeep, or what we would call here is a four-wheel drive. The second one is a sports car. And that's basically what we're looking at here. Which is better, a four-wheel drive or a sports car? If you had a choice to buy either of these cars, which one would you want to buy? Now, obviously, this isn't an IELTS question. It's a very simple question. But for the purpose of us looking at how to develop an argument, let's just use some really simple questions and see how we could develop them. So first of all, what we want to do is think of an argument. What are some of the reasons why a four-wheel drive could be better than a sports car? And what are some of the reasons why a sports car could be better than four-wheel drive? So somebody said a four-wheel drive is more practical. A four-wheel drive has more space. What about the sports car? What are some of the advantages of the sports car? Surely there must be some. Yeah, we got speed. So obviously, if you want to go fast, having a sports car is going to be better. So what we want to do is we want to paraphrase the question. So the question was, which is better? So what we want to do is we want to, I here have chosen a four-wheel drive. In Australia, we use four-wheel drives for mainly off-road use. And I've said a four-wheel drive is better than a sports car. That's my paraphrase. Because, and now my argument, it can go anywhere. So if you've just joined us, somebody's asking what part is it? Is it writing? This really is both writing part 2 and speaking part 3. If you can form an argument effectively, expand it, give an example, that will help you in both your speaking part 3, and it will help you in your writing task 2. In actual fact, in terms of writing, if you're not able to develop an argument, it's really going to affect your coherence and cohesion score. So basically, as we can see, it's very easy. Bit of paraphrase, throw in your argument. I'm not sure, those of us who were here yesterday, we would have seen a Korean friend talking about hobbies, and she was asked, what are some of the hobbies that children in South Korea do? And she just went on, and she said, well, some of the hobbies that children in South Korea do are, and she just gave a whole big list. And at the end, she got caught out. She said, she did mention some hobbies, but she also said things like going to the playground, which obviously isn't really a hobby. But what we're doing here is we're just taking this one argument and we're just going to expand on that. Okay, let's have a look at another topic here. Is everybody able to see this picture clearly and be able to understand what it is? All right, great. So it's sushi. Obviously a favorite amongst girls in Kazakhstan. And this one here is pizza. Which is better? Often in Kazakhstan, they're served together for some reason. We got a nice little mix of sushi and Japanese and Italian. Some people have a clear favorite. Other people are saying it doesn't. Both are good. So sushi is better than pizza, and we can throw on a typical ending of IELTS task 2 questions. Do you agree or disagree? I've chosen, for the sake of this argument, sushi, even though I'm not much of a sushi fan, and I've agreed there with Aizada. Aizada said it's healthier, and I've taken exactly that same argument there. I've said sushi is better than pizza because it has less calories or because it is healthier. So again, sushi is better than pizza is my paraphrase. My argument is it has less calories. Now, what do I mean that sushi is healthier than pizza? What do I mean that it has less calories? What I need to do now is to explain my reasoning. And I've said sushi is very light, as it's usually made of rice and seafood, while pizza is made of dough and cheese. So I've explained what I mean by less calories by pointing out the main ingredients which are within those foods. Okay, so let's keep going. In our picture here, just by the way, just making a comment on the chat, does sushi have vitamins? And I think there could be a slight mistranslation right there. Sushi doesn't have vitamins. It would be an incorrect way of. I think fish has oils and minerals, not vitamins. Omega-3 would be considered more of a mineral than a vitamin, or it's often given in a supplement form in a pharmacy. However, it's not vitamins. That could be a false friend there from the Russian into the English. So pay attention to that. In this picture here, what can you see? Somebody saying an island, a beach. And in the second picture, we can see mountains. Great. So is it better to take a holiday by the sea, or is it better to take one up in the mountains? So both are nature. You've got a nice lake up there in the mountains, or you've got a nice beach by the seaside. If you had a choice, which place would you like to go to on holidays? Okay, so what we need to do is we need to think of an argument of why one could be better than the other. So my argument is that the sea is going to be a better place for a holiday than the mountains, and for the simple reason that you can go swimming. So again, I've paraphrased, I've used my because and given my argument. I like swimming. When I go on holiday, I want to go swimming, so I've chosen the sea. Now what I need to do is I need to explain my idea. I need to explain why you can't go swimming in the mountains, or why is it that the beach is a better place to go swimming. So in the mountains, the water is very cold, while in the sea, it's a lot warmer, which is far better for relaxing. So I've explained why I believe. And remember, these are, in the end, quite generalizations. We don't have to be 100% accurate here. It is just for the purpose of an argument. And obviously, there could be a lot of other counter arguments to this. And that's what creates debate. That's what creates discussion, which is what part 3 of speaking is all about. What I need to do now is give an example. And now my example should be giving proof It should be giving some kind of facts. It should be showing why it is, why I'm saying the sea is warmer. Can I give some proof for that? And so my example is quite sorry, I've lost my words there, become quite incoherent, trying to talk about coherence. Well, let me just read out what I have. And I've got, for example, in the Almaty Mountains, the average water temperature is 5 degrees, and this can hardly be considered a relaxing place for a holiday. So I've made up that fact. I'm not sure what the water temperature in the Almaty Mountains is. However, I have been up in the Almaty Mountains on several occasions, and the water up there is incredibly cold as it melts from the glaciers and comes down the mountains. And I definitely don't think that I would consider that a relaxing swim on my holiday. I'd much rather be somewhere on a beach where the water is much, much warmer. So again, this is what I've done is I've paraphrased, I've given my argument, and then I've extended that argument. I've stretched it out. So from one small argument, I've made 3 sentences. Summer or winter, which is a better season? As we are coming up to summer, everybody's saying summer is a better season. However, some people are already thinking about the hot months ahead, and they're saying, no, wait a minute, winter wasn't that bad after all. I think depending on where you live in Kazakhstan, depends on how severe your winter was, is whether you'll be preferring the winter or the summer. So I noticed saying, I'm from Astana and summer is the better season. Here in the UK, everybody's looking forward to the summer, and I'm a huge summer fan. I've written an argument in favor of summer. And I've said that I prefer summer because you can do a lot more in the summer. So now what I need to do is I need to explain what do I mean you can do a lot more. In summer, the range of activities is endless as the weather is good. However, in the winter, due to the cold, it is impossible to spend time outside, therefore limiting the number of activities one can do. So I've done a little bit of a contrast, a compare, and now what I really need to do is give some concrete proof. What exactly is it that I mean that there are a range of activities or endless activities that you can do in the summer? What are they? I need to give a concrete example. In the summer, you can go swimming. Can't do that in the winter. You can go out on day trips. Can't do that in the winter. Or you can have picnics in the park. And all of these are great activities. Everybody enjoys doing them. But in the winter, you just can't do it. It's too cold. And so therefore, we can see summer is better. And what we can do now, it's optional, is give a nice little rounding off. It's kind of like putting the bottom bun on your burger. You've put in all your ingredients, and now what you want to do is you want to put that bottom bun on, whack in a concluding sentence. Therefore, it is obvious that as warmer weather allows one to do more activities, summer is clearly the better season. All right. So that there gives us a nice argument. We've got the top bun, we've got the bottom bun, we've got all of the ingredients in between. And basically what we've got here is a nice coherent argument. It's very easy to understand what I'm trying to say. You might not agree with it, but you understand it. And that's the most important thing about forming an argument. What we're going to do now, before we go into IELTS writing task 2, even though it says task 1 on my slide, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to speaking. We're going to have a look at where we left off yesterday with some of our friends from Turkey, Syria, and also from Turkey, Syria, and Korea. Thank you, Aruzan. So we're going to have a look at them. And as we listen to them, think about how they're answering their questions. How are they forming arguments? Because this is a discussion. And in a discussion, you want to be giving arguments across. That's what the examiner is expecting from you. But as you can see, it's not that easy. And even though these are higher level candidates, they still struggle in putting across coherent arguments. And so as we listen to them, that it would be the number one thing that I'd like you to have a look at and to pay attention to. How are they forming their arguments? Look, the topic that these girls looked at was giving a gift. Unlike the Korean girl who talked about her, can anybody remember the topic of the Korean girl? Hobbies. These ones are talking about giving gifts. And the questions, I've written them down here so you can note them before we listen. And basically, the examiner is going to ask her, on what occasions do family members give gifts to each other in Syria? And do people tend to spend a lot of money on gifts? Is the follow-up question. Now, Daniel is asking, can these questions be met in writing task 1? They can't. We're not talking about writing task 1. We'll talk about writing task 1 tomorrow. We'll have a look at that in detail. However, at the moment, what we're looking at is we're looking at how to form an argument. And this is used, again, I'll reiterate it, in speaking part 3 in the discussion, and it'll be used in your essays, which also rely on discussion and presenting arguments. So it's exactly the same skill, which is being utilized in these 2 different sections. So these are the questions the examiner is going to ask. Let's now have a look at the interview, and then we'll have a little analysis of how things went.
We've been talking about a special gift you gave to someone, and I'd like to discuss with you 1 or 2 more general questions related to this. Let's consider, first of all, giving gifts in families. On what occasions do family members give gifts to each other in Syria?
Well, usually they give gifts on birthdays, in special occasions like, for example, the Eid in my country, and in Christmas time. So and sometimes if anybody was graduated from college or from school, and somebody who is get out of a hospital and he's now in a very good health, so we usually give them presents and gifts.
Do people tend to spend a lot of money on gifts?
Sometimes, yeah, but it depends on the person that you are giving the gifts, and it depends on your own financial status.
Mm-hmm. So as you can see there, again, especially in the second question, it wasn't really developed. She just gave an argument. She didn't develop the argument, and this is something that you should be actually trying to do. Obviously, she is a high-level candidate. She's able to keep on going, but if she was able to develop her arguments better, her responses would be longer. Which would also help, which would help her in being able to show a greater range of structures. It would also help her in being able to gain a greater, or be able to show a wider range of vocabulary. So that was our Syrian friend. Now our Turkish friend is going to be answering very similar questions. However, the examiner here has changed the question. She's asking a very general question. She's asking, on what occasions do family members give gifts to each other? And again, the follow-up question is going to be different. So, and this is where part 3, it's impossible to memorize answers for it. It's impossible to be quite prepared for it. Because the examiner is going to change the question and ask for clarification based on the responses that you gave. And so then the follow-up question is, what is the difference between the types of gifts given to children and the gifts given to adults? And then there's another follow-up question, and what types of gifts do people give to adults? As I mentioned, this candidate is a little bit weaker. And so the reason there are 2 follow-up questions is because she doesn't actually answer one. If you don't answer a question, the examiner will ask you to clarify, or to, basically, the examiner will ask you to answer the question in a polite way. So let's watch how she performs.
We've been talking about a special gift you gave to someone, and I'd like to discuss with you 1 or 2 more general questions related to this. Let's consider, first of all, giving gifts in families.
Okay.
What occasions do family members give gifts to each other?
It depends on country, because every country has a different occasion. In England, I have been here for 4 years, especially before Christmas. People are crazy about giving gifts, shopping. But for us in Turkey, we have a lot of special religious days. 2 of them are very big. One of them we celebrate for 4 days. Another one we celebrate for 3 days. And we both a lot of gifts for family ships and neighbors, sometimes friends. And one of them we buy present for poor people, especially for poor people.
What is the difference between the types of gift given to children and the gifts given to adults in families?
It's easy to find gifts for children because you can buy toys, books, or some clothes. But for the adults, it's really difficult to find what they would like.
So what types of gifts do people give to adults?
Maybe some jewelry or some part of clothes, probably, yeah.
Okay, so we can see that in her answer, in the first answer, she tried to give 3 arguments, and you can see how this actually works against her. So her first 2 arguments weren't terribly developed. They were quite easy to understand. Basically, she mentioned England and gift giving in and around Christmas, and then she contrasted that with how gifts are given in Turkey, and spoke about the two Eids and the gifts given then. However, then on her third argument, she kind of really went off topic and started talking about giving presents to poor people. Now, I'm not sure about what happens in your life, but I've never seen anybody give presents to poor people. Obviously, it can happen on the occasion where charities give presents to kids. However, I think what she means here is giving charity to poor people. And I mean, as Jamilia said, sadaqah. And sadaqah is not, if you look at the question which says, on what occasions do family members give gifts to each other? Giving sadaqah has got nothing to do with this question. And so what's happened, it's become one of these big burgers, like that Big Mac that we saw. However, it's got really messy, and you can't really understand how it answers the question. However, the examiner brings it back on topic by asking her what is the difference between the types of gifts given to children and the gifts given to adults. She answers a little bit off topic again, because she starts talking that it's easier to give gifts to children than it is to give gifts to adults. And I think yesterday I was talking about how important it is to make sure you understand the question. So her fluency is quite good, but she's not really able to talk about the questions which have been posed to her, which is going to influence her overall band score. And the examiner has to ask this third question about what type of gifts do people give to adults, to prod out the information, because the candidate isn't given it. So obviously what we want to do is we want to take one idea and we want to develop it. So on what occasions do family members give gifts to each other? Here in the UK, probably the biggest celebration in which people give gifts to each other is Christmas. Just before Christmas, many people spend their time shopping and thinking about what gifts they can give to family members and even close friends. For example, the sales in December, when Christmas occurs in the UK, are the greatest in the retail industry out of all 12 months. So I would say that definitely the occasion in which most gifts are given here in the UK would definitely be Christmas. And the examiner then could, obviously the examiner has asked for occasions. I've only given one occasion. I give the examiner the chance, if they want to, they can ask me, are there any other occasions? And then I could go and develop my second argument. So I haven't included the whole clip. You can go on YouTube and watch the whole clip and analyze it. But basically the examiner continues to ask some questions before changing the topic slightly. So the examiner is going to say, now we are going to talk about giving gifts in society. So that's a little prompt the examiner will give when they do change the topic slightly. So they were talking about previously about giving gifts in families, and now you're going to notice as the topic changes to giving gifts in society. And so sometimes what happens is if the candidate doesn't hear this change in direction, they keep trying to talk about giving gifts in family, and therefore kind of get muddled up. They're not really answering the question. The coherence score might be affected. Their vocabulary score might be affected. So it is important to listen and especially note these changes. And the two questions which are going to be asked: is it better for people to give money or their time to help other people? And do you think that people or school children should be made to help other people?
Is it better for people to give money or their time to help other people?
Sorry, could you repeat it?
Is it better for people to give money or their time to help other people?
Yes, it's better because when you need the help, other people will help you, and it will be a circle again, and everybody will help each other.
So do you think that we should be made, or school children should be made to help other people?
Yeah, if you train at a young age, it will be like a habit for you. When an adult or older, you will always help the people. Yeah, it's like a science or maths, I think.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the speaking test.
Oh, thank you.
This examiner is very nice, an older lady, very polite. However, I'm 100% convinced that she felt quite frustrated at the level of communication in that interview. She was asking questions. She didn't let on that the candidate was answering them incorrectly. A good examiner will always hide their emotions. They won't show that they're frustrated. Although there are a few examiners who openly express their unhappiness at candidates. That is considered unprofessional, though. Hopefully that won't occur in your test. Basically, the examiner asked the question. The candidate didn't catch it, and she was very quick. She didn't even hesitate. She said, "Sorry, can you repeat that, please?" And that's perfectly fine. It happens all the time in communication when you are talking with your friends. Sometimes your friend will ask you a question, you didn't quite get that, and you say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" Obviously, in a formal interview, you don't want to be asking a question in a rude way. So it's always polite to use a word like "sorry," as the candidate did, and using a modal like "could you please repeat that? I didn't catch the question." It actually works in your favor. Don't sit there stunned thinking about the question for a long time and think, "Oh, maybe if I say I didn't hear the examiner, that I'll get penalized." That's not going to help you. The girl, when she did finally understand the question, she answered with the question, "Yes." But the question wasn't, "Do you think?" The question was, "Is it better for people to give money or time to help other people?" This is a common thing that happens all the time in IELTS tests, is that when candidates are given these type of questions, is it better? And yes, what? And again, if we were following the structure which I pointed out at the beginning of our lesson, where we do paraphrase and give our argument, we would have avoided giving an incorrect answer, as that girl there did. Is it better to give money or time to help other people? I believe giving money could be more effective than time in some occasions, such as, and give your argument. So giving a little bit of paraphrase rather than a direct answer like that would definitely have helped in that situation. And then finally, the examiner asked one more question at the end. And the reason, if you watch the whole interview, you'll be able to see that the examiner asks a lot of questions, far more than she should have asked. And that the reason for that is because the candidate's not giving full answers. She's giving very short answers, which aren't going to help you in your fluency if you want to get a higher band score. Because if you look in the fluency and coherence band descriptors, you'll see that it is candidates are able to give full answers, extended answers, and the same applies for vocabulary as well. Let's have a look at a friend from Syria. Her questions are going to be slightly different. The examiner is going to talk about the topic of international gifts. He's going to ask her about what sort of aid do countries give to other countries, and what do you think motivates governments to give aid to other countries?
Thank you. Right, let's move on from personal gifts to international gifts, if you want, and talk about international aid. What sort of aid do countries give to other countries?
Well, sometimes it gives the international aids whenever a country is in need for something and the country cannot afford to make it or to bring it. So the other countries will help her, for example, in food aids, and especially in disasters and when something bad happened to this country. So they're going to give it food aids, sometimes medical aids, sometimes psychological aids, as we do, because I work in the Red Crescent, so I know what this does it mean to give a psychological aids for sometimes for refugees, or for even to go for the near countries that really need. For example, in my country, we go to Iraq or to Lebanon when the invasion, and so we help them psychologically to just pass and get over this.
So what do you think motivates government to give aid to other countries?
Well, it is important because I feel that let us recognize ourselves that at the end we are all human beings and we are living in the same club, and it's like a small village, and we are all members of the same the same land. So I feel it's just really makes the relationships more strong, and it gives you it really lets you feel like your humanity at the end.
Okay. So Narais pointed out that in the first question there was a lot of repetition going on there. That pretty much just sums it up. In the second question, then Naz has pointed out, she went off topic a bit. What do you think motivates governments to give aid to other countries? She started talking about the world being a small village, and everybody, how important it is that everybody kind of feels each other's problems, etc. And kind of it even affected her grammar a little bit at the end, and started to make a lot of mistakes as she started to notice that she wasn't being very coherent. So again, we can see that even these higher level candidates are making quite a lot of mistakes. And she was given an opportunity to answer some questions at a higher level. The examiner obviously thought that she was a little bit of a higher candidate. However, in her attempt to answer these questions, she didn't do all that well. And obviously that would have made up the examiner's mind as to whether she really was that high-level candidate, whether she really was able to express herself well in her use of the English language. Let's have a look, going back to hobbies with our South Korean friend. And the two questions being asked here is, how does it benefit an adult to have a hobby, and how does it help to relax?
Let's move on now, Kyung-Gae, to think about hobbies for adults. How does it benefit an adult to have a hobby?
It definitely helps to relax from the stress from the children.
How does it help to relax?
If you are doing what you are enjoying, then you can forget about other stressful situations or stressful things. You can just concentrate on what you are enjoying. So therefore you can have new energy to fight with a new stress, maybe.
Okay. So you can see that here in this instance, the examiner asked the candidate, how does it benefit an adult to have a hobby? And she gave a very, very brief answer. She said it helps to relax. She didn't develop it. She didn't basically give any further information. And so that then caused the examiner to prompt her. Can you explain your argument? How does it help to relax? So there we can see that if you're not going to develop the argument, then the examiner is going to get a little bit frustrated. He's going to have to pull you around. Ideally, in your IELTS speaking, what you want to be doing is you want to be giving fully developed arguments so that the examiner can take you for a good and pleasant discussion together about a variety of subjects. I hope it has helped to have a look at some of these instances of people. These are IELTS videos. I'm not sure how they got onto YouTube. They actually were at one point confidential material, but now they're not. They're freely available to all on the internet, on YouTube. You can Google those. Unfortunately, when you do Google IELTS interviews, a whole lot of mock interviews come in, and a lot of those mock interviews actually aren't standard IELTS interviews. And you can actually get a misconception about what IELTS speaking is all about when you do look at those interviews. So I hope it has helped to just have a look and analyze how candidates answer questions. Put yourself in their shoes. How do you answer these type of questions? Are you able to develop an argument? Or if asked this question, do you go off on a tangent? What kind of coherent argument do you give? Or do you give an completely incoherent argument? If you're not sure, then have a look at some of these questions and record yourself giving an argument for some of these questions that we've had a look at in the test today. Record yourself giving these answers, and then listen back. Am I developing an argument, or am I starting to go off on some kind of tangent getting off topic. Have I answered the question? And obviously, when there are nerves involved, these candidates were all quite nervous, and they were under pressure. They were being filmed, and often what happens is that some of these ideas that you have on forming arguments under pressure, you just kind of cave in a little bit, and that's okay. There is an allowance for people to maybe give some arguments which they might feel embarrassed about later on. And it does happen. People tell you ideas and you think, I'm sure afterwards when they go away and think about their ideas, they're going to be quite embarrassed about what they said. That's fine. It's just a test of the language, not about how, it's not a debate club. When the examiner's not looking at how well you can form arguments, but how well you can form these arguments in English at the end of the day. So with that in mind, let's move back into IELTS writing, task 2, and just have a look at some of the what's expected of us there. So IELTS task 2, basically what you've got is you have to write an essay. You'll be given a topic. You have to answer the questions. And here again, a lot of times the problem is that people don't answer the question. Same as in the speaking, people go off topic, and then what you have to do is you have to give reasons. And in exactly the same way, give relevant examples. It asks from your knowledge and from your experience. Now, when it asks you to give examples from your experience, it doesn't mean that you have to write a whole paragraph about your younger sister and how she has this great hobby. Yes, from your experience, but make it general. So, for example, many young girls, so generalize your sister rather than actually talk about your sister. Obviously, lower end candidates are going to talk a lot about themselves. That's not real essay writing, and obviously that will lower their score. So you've got 40 minutes to spend on this task, and you're required to write 250 words. Hopefully it would be a lot better if you wrote slightly over 250 to 270. If you write 4 pages, you're not going to get a better mark. It's better to write no more than 270 words, but really use the time later on to think. Well, first of all, to use the time at the beginning to plan, and then use the time later on to go back and check over your essay and make sure that you haven't made too many mistakes. So if you write 4 pages, the examiner is not going to think, oh, wow, this is a great candidate, especially if towards the end you feel you're running out of time and you start to rush. And when you rush, you start to make mistakes. Now, writing 250 words is not difficult. If I give you 1 hour to sit down and write 250 words, you're going to do it quite easily. The problem is writing 250 words in 40 minutes. And in actual fact, you want to be writing this in 35 minutes by giving yourself 5 minutes to plan. So this is where practice comes in. Unfortunately, there's no magical wand that we can wave and help you to become a better writer. Just like with all skills, the more you practice, the better you become. Generally, when we do IELTS courses, we want candidates to have at least written 21 essays, which we have checked. And usually what we do is we get them to write one essay, we check it, give them feedback, let them make some corrections, and then they write another one, and follow the same process, so on and so forth. The reason is because at the end of the day, having this controlled practice is what is going to help you to get a good result at the end. Because after writing 21 essays within 40 minutes, you're going to feel quite confident in your strategy. Now, there is a little note that I would like to point out, and when you are given your writing task, you're given both task 1 and 2 together, and you can choose which task you want to start with. You can choose to start with task 1, or you can choose to start with task 2. Now, task 1 and task 2 aren't equally weighted. You've got task 2, you're required to spend 40 minutes on the task, and task 1, you're required to spend 20 minutes. So obviously one task is worth 33.333%, while the other one is worth 66.666666%. In bearing that in mind, if for some reason you are unable to finish on time, and you're on task 2, then your essay, which is worth 66.6%, has now been affected. Alternatively, if you make a mistake and somehow below the time limit and it's just your task 1, that's going to affect your overall end writing score a lot less. And obviously you do see a lot of essays coming through which are short. You can see sometimes even blank, as candidates ran out of time or spent too much time on one task and then didn't have any time left for their second task. So again, as with anything that is connected with timing, the more you practice, the better you become. In IELTS writing task 2, there are a range of essays which you might face. You've got an opinion-led, agree or disagree essay, something along the lines of summer is better than winter. Do you agree or disagree? This is just asking you your opinion. You can get an advantage or a disadvantage type essay, and that one also is asking you your opinion, but it's asking you about your opinion about the advantages and disadvantages. Now, alternatively, you can be asked advantage or disadvantage, and it could be a discussion type essay. The difference between an opinion essay and a discussion essay is it requires you to look at both sides. So in an opinion essay, you can choose one side. You can say, I completely agree that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. However, in the discussion type, you have to give a nice balanced view. And obviously you can get an argument-led essay where you've got two arguments and you have to give your opinion on both. Further to this, we got some other problem issue type essays, and there's 2 of them, and it really is important that you make a note between the 2 differences. One is causes and solutions, the other one is causes and consequences. And I have seen candidates write essays where they're writing solutions in the place of consequences. And these essays can often cause some complications for people as they don't quite answer the question, but they answer the actual topic card. And that obviously will influence your general overall score. And obviously then we have mixed type of essays where they throw in a reason and an opinion. And it is important also to just pay attention to what kind of essay that you're given. But more importantly, again, is to know actually what kind of essay types there are. And again, there's 7 here, essay types. When practicing your 21 essays before you take the test, obviously it's good to take 3 of each. You don't know what kind of essay you might get on your test. So have a look at all of the different types and practice doing all of the different types of essays. Really, there's not much of a difference in how you would tackle these essays. They're all basically tackled in a very, very similar manner. Again, what are you getting assessed on? Back in the days when there were paper-based scripts and examiners were marking them, there was this little box at the bottom that looked like this. Obviously, this information managed to leak its way to the general public. And so basically, this is what was at the bottom of the paper, and this is what examiners would have a look at and put their marks into. So you can see there's TR, CC, LR, and GRA. Now, looking at TR, what does TR stand for? Anybody have any idea? Are we able to put some ideas into the... Okay, Amirjan, I think you've nailed it there. Task response. Now, Kasim, you've said task achievement, and that actually is what is in the place of writing task 1. So writing task 1 doesn't have TR, it's got TA. And we'll have a look at that and what that means for us. And if you have a look at the writing criteria, if you look at the band descriptors, there is quite a difference between the band descriptors for task 1 and the band descriptors for task 2. And that is because the tasks ask quite different responses from the candidate. And accordingly, in asking different responses, they're getting marked differently. Yeah, I'm not going to cover anything else there. That generally doesn't apply to most people. As you can see, memorized scripts are treated differently. Illegible scripts which cannot be read, get treated differently. And then if you go off topic, completely off topic, then there's a different category for those type of essays. However, that's very, very rare. Most people, when they go off topic, they only slightly go off topic and it affects TR. So I think we've come to the end of what we can get to today. I understand it's quite a long evening for you and it is getting quite late. So what we might do is just jump ahead to our quiz today. And obviously we want to see that a winner who claim 5,000 tenge. Let me just get myself quickly ready for this quiz. Okay. I hope you're all ready. Okay, and let's have a look at our first question. What is the most common minimum IELTS requirement for universities in the UK? So what the most universities, what band score, overall band score, do universities in the UK require? So if you're planning to go to the UK and you've just taken the IELTS, what kind of band score would you need to be able to apply and get accepted into UK university? Now, obviously, there are a range of answers depending on the university. What I'm asking for here is I'm asking for the most common, or the average score. Next question. In your IELTS writing, you'll be given 2 tasks. Which task should you do first? And you can write here either task 1 or task 2. They're your 2 possible answers. Now, we haven't completely covered this, but how many words must each writing task have? So we're looking at the minimum words that each writing task must have. So here, if you want to get the 5,000 tenge, you have to give 2 answers, not just 1. Let's have a look at the next question. In which sport is this ball used? So in case you've been wondering, what is that ball at the bottom of the screen? Or is that a ball? Well, there you go. It's one of the questions that we are asking. And the last question, and remember, the first person to give all of the correct answers is going to get the 5,000 tenge. And what is the name of this animal? All right, let's go. I think we've already got a winner, don't we, Alton?
So we don't look at spelling, right?
No, we're not looking at spelling. I think right off the bat there was a winner. I think the second answer was the correct answer. Have we located the winner?
We are trying to find 1 minute.
Okay. So just bear with us and we will announce the winner very shortly. I think some people are sitting there with a list of Australian animals, have learnt them all off by heart, and have managed to nail this straight off the bat.
Okay. Thanks.
I texted you there, Alton,
Yes.
what I think could possibly be the winner.
Okay. 5:32. I'm looking. Chopin says that this is 6.0. Chopin, according to her, it's 6.0.
0, I can see 6.5.
Or maybe it's a different Chopin, no?
Maybe another Chopin, yeah.
Ah, Chopin Aralova. Yeah. We have this one.
Is that a winner?
Yeah, Chopin Aralova is the winner.
Chopin Aralova, if you contact Alton, the 5,000 prize will be yours. So well done. So the most common minimum IELTS requirement for universities in the UK is 6.5. That is closely followed by 7. However, 6.5 is, as you can see, a very good score. So when candidates talk about what score they actually want, a lot of them have, I think an 8 would be great. I want an 8. If you have a 6.5, you can enter a university for an undergraduate program in the UK, which is basically what UK universities consider enough for you to be able to understand and function as a student in a foreign country. So if you are able to get a 6.5, you should be well proud of yourself of having learned English to that level, making you an advanced user of the English language. Which writing tasks should you complete first? There shouldn't have been any doubt about that, because I did mention it just before we did the quiz, and it was writing task 2. How many words must each writing task have? 250 for part 2 and 150 for part 1. In which sport is this ball used? It's used in cricket, which is also, I know many people in Kazakhstan have never played cricket. However, cricket is the second most played sport in the world. So I'm not sure if so football obviously is the first most popular sport, but very closely followed by cricket. And basically, cricket is played by Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis, and right there you have almost a third of the world playing the sport. So yeah, the name of this animal, it's called a dugong. It's found in Australian waters. I'm not quite sure if it's found in other places. I think there is a similar animal, which is commonly referred to as a sea cow, which is found in other places in the world. But there are quite a lot of differences. If you have a look online, you can study some of the differences between a dugong and a sea cow, and etc. All right. Let's have a look at our question and answers. And we'll be discussing writing tasks, examples, and templates. Now, unfortunately, due to the nature of a seminar, we're not really able to give a lot of feedback on your writing. We're not really able to give you a lot of kind of what you would get in a classroom, where we could really see you try these tasks. And really, learning will only take place if you attempt a task. So just listening to me talk about how to form an argument doesn't mean that you can form an argument. So really, the whole point where learning starts to take place is when you actually try these tasks. So we will briefly look at some of the templates, and I will give you a few examples. Unfortunately, it won't be in depth as you would experience, obviously, in a lesson, due to the nature of the webinar. I have one question. Daniel is asking in the listening section, the task is no more than 2 words and a number. I have written as 3 times, but in the book the answer is 3 times. So it's not always 2 words and a number. That's why it is important, Daniel, to read the question very carefully. Sometimes you can write 3 words and or a number. And usually if you use a good book, like the Cambridge IELTS practice tests, then you should be able to rely on the answers. The answers are true. Basically, Cambridge, after 6 years, recycles some of those tests and puts them into books. So after having made money off them for the IELTS, they then go ahead and make money by publishing those tests. All helps keep the IELTS a profitable business. If you tell the examiner that you didn't understand the question, and I suspect that's for speaking part 3, the examiner, Kasim, is going to basically paraphrase that question for you. So we didn't see that happen today, but that's what should have happened, is when the examiner sees that you don't understand the question, they'll just try and change the wording for you to make sure that you can answer it. It's not a listening test, it's a speaking test, so the examiner is trying to basically feel your level and give you appropriate questions, and that's what they should be doing. And obviously, depending on how often you do it, if you're going to be asking every question, sorry, what was that? Sorry, what was that? Sorry, what was that? Well, obviously, it's not going to look good for your vocabulary. However, if you do it once or twice in the test, it's absolutely nothing to worry about. Aidana is asking, should we provide more not apparent arguments? For instance, summer is better because there is no need for wearing heavy as clothes in winter. Really, it doesn't matter what your argument is, and don't worry too much about, was it a smart argument? Was it a dumb argument? The main thing is about how you present the argument, and that's what's really important in speaking. When it comes to writing, it does change a little bit. Your arguments, if they're really overgeneralized, well, that will affect your TR, and we'll have a look at that a little bit more tomorrow. Now, Aruzan is saying, can we give negative arguments? Because she's heard that it's only good if you give positive arguments. It really doesn't matter. You can give a positive argument, you can give a negative argument. It's up to you. It's your opinion. and you don't get marks for your opinion. If you disagree with the examiner, obviously there is a way to disagree politely, and I mean, the examiner is asking you questions which will be interesting for you and which will provoke some kind of response. So if you feel that's not true, well, that's fine. And sometimes the examiner will ask, you'll give an argument, and the examiner will say, well, what about this? And it can kind of make you think, oh, I didn't realize that there was another side to this argument. And does he disagree with me? No, he's not disagreeing with you. Like, for example, if you say, is summer better than winter? And you say, oh, well, summer's the best season all out because it's the weather's great, you can go out, etc. And then the examiner says, but do you think that everybody would enjoy living in a country with one season? And then you might feel quite silly because you think, oh, well, no, actually 4 seasons are great. And that's fine. And you say, no, well, summer is great, but what makes summer great in a place like Almaty is that it follows on from spring, which is followed on from winter. So you never really get sick of it. And you can explain that, give examples for that. The examiner is just trying to get discussion happening. He's not trying to make you look stupid or make your arguments look stupid. He's just trying to get discussion happening. So Kasim is asking another question. Sorry, another question here about listening and reading. So again, true, false, not given. You can write it out, or you can write FTNG. Both of those are fine. We've got a question about IELTS for USA schools. What's important about every school, every university has different requirements. You really do need to jump on their website and have a look at what tests they require. Some of them won't accept IELTS. However, generally in the USA, most institutions, especially the larger institutions, do accept IELTS. What if I wrote more words than they ask me? Will it influence the mark? Again, this is a good question. I did, however, address it. So if you write 350 words, what's going to happen is it's going to take you quite some time to do that. So it will affect your marks because you'll have spent all your time writing 350 words for task 2, and then you won't have enough time to write for 150 words for task 1. Now, if you say, no, but I can write 350 words in 40 minutes, well, it would have been better to write 250 words. However, rather than having written 350, but spent more time thinking about your grammar structures, not rushing, maybe spending 5 minutes planning, going at the end of your writing, going back over and reading over all of your sentences and making sure that you didn't make any mistakes. Janie is asking, what is more significant in writing? Using academic words, rich vocabulary, but with a little bit dim reply, or simple words with a good idea? I'm going to kind of not answer that question and say that when you're talking about vocabulary, if you try and use words which you don't understand yourself, there's a large percentage that you might make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, you can lose communication. Once your communication is affected, your score will also go down. Obviously, you do need to use words, a little bit more complex words, but only use words which you're really sure that you're confident you can use correctly. Okay, so is it better to take computer-based IELTS? IELTS that you take on the computer, or CDI, is exactly the same as paper-based IELTS, apart from its format. So no university will say that CDI is, they will accept paper-based but not CDI, except for UKVI. So if your university requires you to do a UKVI test, then you have to do a UKVI test. However, whether you do a paper-based or a computer-based IELTS, the only difference really there is that it is the format the test is being taken in. In speaking, is it important to speak a lot? Again, Ajahn, that's in part 1, you want to be giving 20 to 30 second answers. In part 2, you want to speak for 2 minutes without stopping. In part 3, you want to be giving arguments. So usually to give an argument will take you about 40 seconds. 40 seconds to 1 minute per argument. And that's kind of what you're aiming for, really. 40 seconds per argument. Is it a good sign that an examiner is stopping you while you're talking? Commonly in part 2. I heard people saying that it means that the candidate is giving an expanded answer. So in part 2, the examiner isn't going to be stopping you at all. You talk, the examiner will not stop you. Sometimes the examiner in part 3 will stop you. If the examiner does stop you, usually it's because you've been given one of those really, really long answers and he wants to ask you a few more questions. Another reason could be is that you've gone off topic. So usually if you're giving 40-second answers, the examiner is not going to be stopping you at all. And if the examiner is stopping you a lot, it's because you're going against the structure of the test. So he has to stick to certain procedures, or they have to stick to certain procedures. So yeah, I think if you stick to that, then the examiner shouldn't be stopping you too much at all. Okay, so Altana is asking, if a candidate didn't hear an examiner clearly, how could they ask the examiner to repeat a question? So I beg your pardon, or I beg your pardon wouldn't really be the best thing to say. Could you please repeat the question? And sorry, could you please repeat the question, please? Or sorry, I didn't catch you. Could you repeat the question, please? That would be fine. Okay, I think that's in regards to samples of writing. I think Alton would be the better person to ask questions regarding that. All right, guys. Thank you very much to all the people that have stayed with us this far. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great sleep, and be looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to be having a look at writing task 2 and writing task 1, specifically the structure and what you should be, the structure that you should be following. All right. Good luck to all of you, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.